24 hours in ADX Florence. What life really feels like inside a cage. The sound they can't escape. For most people, a day lasts 24 hours. Inside ADX Florence, a day can feel like a lifetime. At 5:32 a.m., an inmate named Marcus opens his eyes in a room no bigger than a walk-in closet. He didn't wake up because he was rested. He woke up because the lights never fully turn off. Inside ADX, there is no true darkness and almost no silence. He hears the first sound of the day. A heavy steel door slamming shut somewhere down the tier. Then another. Then another. Every slam echoes through the concrete like thunder trapped in a hallway. Marcus whispers to himself, "Another day, same box." But as he sits up on his thin mattress, something hits him. Today feels different. Not because anything changed, but because nothing ever does, and that's the part that scares him most. What does a full day inside America's most secure prison really feel like? Let's begin. The morning that never feels like morning. The walls inside Marcus' cell are cold and made of smooth concrete. No cracks. No posters. No color. Just gray and silence that never fully feels silent. His bed is a slab of concrete with a thin mattress on top. His toilet and sink are one steel unit bolted to the wall. His window, if you can call it that, is a narrow slit carved into the concrete, facing the sky. He can't see people. He can't see the yard. He can't even see the fence. Just a piece of sky. At 6 a.m., breakfast arrives. He doesn't see the officer's face. He doesn't hear any greeting. All he hears is the food slot creak open, a tray slide in, and the slot slam shut. On the tray is the same meal he gets nearly every morning. 2 scoops of oatmeal. A small carton of milk. 1 slice of bread. Marcus picks up the spoon. It feels almost strange in his hand, because everything in this place is designed to be safe, even the spoons. He eats slowly because there's nothing else to do. As he finishes, he stands in the middle of his cell and stretches. Not because he wants to, but because mandatory morning standing count is coming. At 7:15 a.m., the guards walk past each cell. They look through the small window in the steel door. No words. No small talk. Just checking. Is he alive? Is he here? Marcus stands still. Breathes slow. Waits for the footsteps to move on. When the count ends, the prison goes quiet again. A quiet so deep that Marcus can hear his heartbeat echo in his ears. This is morning inside ADX Florence. There is no sun. There is no breakfast table. There is no good morning. Only steel, concrete, and the sound of your own breathing. The longest hours of the day. After morning count, Marcus sits on the edge of his concrete bed. The day has barely started, but to him, it already feels heavy. Inside ADX, time doesn't move normally. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like days. And every day feels exactly like the one before. 8 a.m., the first 4 walls. Marcus begins the part of the day he dreads most. The quiet stretch between breakfast and rec time. There's no TV in his cell. No phone. No human face to look at. Just the same 4 walls he's been staring at for years. He paces from one end of the cell to the other. It takes him 4 steps to reach the back wall. 4 steps to return. He does this over and over, not to stay fit, but to keep his mind from falling apart. He counts each lap out loud. 1, 2, 3. By lap 70, his voice is the only sound in the room. 10:30 a.m. showers. Marcus hears footsteps outside his cell. Not fast. Not loud. Just steady. A guard stops at his door and says the only words he'll hear all morning. Shower time. The door unlocks with a mechanical click. But Marcus doesn't step into an open hallway. Instead, he steps into a small metal cage connected to his cell. It looks like a dog kennel with a shower head inside. He can't touch anything except the walls of the cage. He can't step out. He can't look around. Water comes on automatically for 10 minutes, then shuts off without warning. He dries off with the same towel he's had for weeks and steps back inside his cell. The door locks again. The cage is rolled back. Silence returns. 11:15 lunch. The food slot opens again. Another tray. No voice. No eyes. Just the tray. Today it's beans, a small scoop of rice, and a piece of fruit. Sometimes the food is warm. Sometimes it isn't. Marcus eats slowly. He has nothing else to rush for. As he finishes, he looks at the slit of a window above him. He can see a long, thin line of blue sky. He imagines clouds moving, birds flying, people walking on the outside. He closes his eyes and whispers, "Just get me through today." 12:30 p.m., the wait for rec time. This is the moment every inmate in ADX waits for. The only time of the day they leave the concrete box. The only time they feel air. But the wait is torture. Because you never know exactly when it's coming. Marcus sits down. Stands up. Sits down again. Every footstep outside his door makes his heart jump. Every metal click makes him think, is it my turn? Hours pass this way. Inside ADX Florence, the afternoon is a test, not of strength, but of patience. And Marcus is still waiting. Rec time, the only taste of freedom. At 2:07 p.m., Marcus finally hears it. The sound every ADX inmate waits for. Clack, clack, clack. The heavy locks disengaging. His door slides open, not fully, just enough to let him step into restraints. 2 guards stand outside. One holds cuffs. The other watches every move Marcus makes. He turns around, places his hands behind his back, and waits for the cuffs to close around his wrists. They're cold. Always cold. Then the guard speaks the same line he hears every day. Recreation. This is the moment inmates in ADX call the walk. It's the closest thing to outside they get. The tunnel of echoes. Marcus walks slowly down the hallway. The air feels different outside his cell, cooler, but heavier. The walls stretch up high above him, swallowing every sound in deep, low echoes. He doesn't see other inmates. In ADX, everything is designed so prisoners never meet face to face. Every corner is controlled. Every door is planned. Every step is watched. The outdoor cage. After a long series of steel doors opening and closing, Marcus reaches his destination. A small outdoor cage, made of thick steel fencing and concrete walls. There's no grass. No trees. No open yard. Just a box barely larger than his cell, with a patch of sky overhead. This is outside. He steps in. The guards remove the cuffs through a slot. The door slams shut. For the next 1 hour, this is his world. What freedom feels like when you don't have it. Marcus looks up. The sunlight hits his face. Not warm. Not bright. Just real. He closes his eyes and breathes in the air. For a moment, just a moment, he remembers life before ADX. Walking on streets. Feeling wind. Smelling food from restaurants. Now, the only air he smells is the dry Colorado dust drifting through the vents of the cage. He starts doing push-ups. He doesn't do them to get strong. He does them because movement makes him feel human. After push-ups, he walks in slow circles. 10 steps one way. 10 steps back. 1 hour of rec time. 1 hour of sunlight. 1 hour of freedom. Inside a cage. The worst part comes after. At 3:10 p.m., Marcus hears the guards returning. The cuffs click back on. He steps out. The door closes. And as he walks back down the long hallway, he knows something painful. The only time he touched sunlight today was inside another box. Afternoon silence, evening shadows. By the time Marcus returns to his cell, it's 3:25 p.m. He steps inside, the cuffs come off, and the door shuts with that same deep, heavy boom. For a moment, the silence feels louder than any noise. He turns and looks at the walls. The same walls he left an hour ago. But somehow, after tasting a little bit of sky, they feel smaller. He sits on his bed and lets out a deep breath. This is the part of the day when reality hits hardest. You leave the cage, just to return to another. The thoughts that crawl in. The rec time gave his mind a spark, a tiny reminder of life outside. But now that spark becomes a weight. Marcus leans back against the wall. It's cold. It's always cold. Inside ADX, inmates don't just fight boredom. They fight their own thoughts. Memories become loud here. Regret becomes louder. Silence becomes the loudest of all. Marcus closes his eyes. He tries not to think about the people he hurt, the choices he made, the life he will never return to. But inside this concrete box, the mind has nowhere to run. So it runs to the past. 4:10 p.m. The check. A guard walks by. He peers through the small window in the steel door. Just checking. Is Marcus okay? Is he alive? Is he safe? The guard walks on. The hallway goes quiet again. The checks are quick, but the silence after them stretches. 4:45 p.m. Dinner. The food slot opens again. Marcus doesn't stand up fast. There's no excitement for dinner here. Tonight's meal is a scoop of mashed potatoes, a small piece of chicken, cooked carrots, and a tiny dessert cup. He holds the tray, sits back on the bed, and eats slowly. Not because the food tastes good. Most days it doesn't. But because eating gives him something to do. In here, every simple action becomes a way to keep your mind from slipping. 5:15 p.m. Evening lock-in. After dinner, Marcus places the tray near the door. He doesn't know what time they'll collect it. He doesn't ask. He lies down on his bed and stares at the ceiling. There are no cracks. No details. Nothing to look at. Just flat gray. The same gray he's seen for years. This is when the evening begins. And the evening is when ADX is at its quietest. The building settles. The echoing doors grow still. Even the guards walk softer. And Marcus feels it. The weight of a day inside the world's toughest prison. Pressing down on his chest. The day isn't over, but it feels like it should be. Outside, people are heading home. Cooking dinner. Watching TV. Talking with family. Inside Marcus' cell, the world shrinks down to a bed, a toilet, a sink, a tray. For walls. Every hour from this point on feels like its own kind of night. And the hardest part of the day is still ahead. The night that never feels like night. By 6:10 p.m., the prison is quiet. Too quiet. Most places get calmer at night. ADX Florence gets heavier. The silence isn't peaceful. It's the kind that presses into your ears and makes your own heartbeat feel loud. Marcus sits on the edge of his bed, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. He knows what's coming. Night inside ADX isn't rest. It's survival. The hours that drag you back into your own mind. When the world outside starts to settle, Marcus' mind begins to race. With no TV, no voices, no conversations, his thoughts become his company, and also his enemy. Some nights he relives childhood memories. Other nights he thinks about people he hurt, people he lost. Sometimes he tries not to imagine his family living their lives without him. But the worst feeling is this. Knowing tomorrow will be the exact same as today. No weekend. No break. No change. Just another 24 hours. Inside a concrete box. 7 p.m. Evening count. Footsteps echo down the hallway. Slow, heavy, rhythmic. Two guards stop at Marcus' door. They peek inside, confirm he's there and breathing and move on. It takes only seconds, but the footsteps stay in Marcus' head long after they fade. When the sound disappears, the silence becomes even deeper. 7:30 p.m. The activity of desperation. Marcus stands up. He needs to move before the walls feel like they're closing in again. He begins pacing. 4 steps forward. 4 steps back. Over and over. Sometimes he does push-ups. Sometimes sit-ups. Sometimes nothing at all. Movement isn't about fitness here. It's about keeping the mind from cracking. Because inside ADX, mental strength matters more than any muscle. 8:15 p.m. The window to nowhere. Marcus looks toward the slit in the wall. That thin slice of sky he sees every day. At night it's different. He can't see stars. He can't see the moon. He can't see lights from the city. Just a dark shape, like someone took a pen and drew a line across the sky. But he looks anyway, because that small line is the only part of the world he still shares with everyone outside. He whispers, "Still here." No one hears him, but he says it anyway. 9:30 p.m. The echoes of the building. As the night gets darker, The building itself makes noise. Metal cooling. Concrete shifting. Distant doors slamming. Some inmates yell to themselves. Some talk to voices nobody else hears. Some cry quietly into their pillows. Marcus listens. Not because he wants to, but because you can hear everything in ADX. Every sound reminds him he's not alone. And at the same time, reminds him he is. 10:15 p.m., the light that never goes off. The room never gets fully dark. The low security light on the ceiling stays on all night. Officers must see him at all times. Marcus lays down on his thin mattress. He tries closing his eyes, but the light pushes through his eyelids. Sleep doesn't come easy here. He turns on his side, then his back, then sits up again. The bed creaks softly. The walls stay silent. And Marcus feels it. The night isn't a time to rest. It's a time to endure. The night doesn't end. It just fades into tomorrow. As the hours pass, time becomes blurry. Minutes and hours mix together. Sometimes Marcus dozes off for a few minutes. Sometimes he doesn't. He's not sure if it's 11 p.m., or 1 a.m., or 3 a.m. All he knows is that soon, very soon, the cycle will start again. The lights, the count, the walls, the food slot, the waiting, the silence. Inside ADX Florence, night isn't a break from the day. It's just the darker half of the same cage. When morning arrives but nothing changes. Somewhere around 4:40 a.m., Marcus finally drifts into a shallow sleep. It doesn't feel like real sleep, more like his body shutting down for a moment. But just when his mind starts to fade, clang, a steel door slams somewhere far down the tier. He wakes instantly. Inside ADX, your body learns to react to every sound. Sleep comes in pieces. Never hours. Never deep. Marcus opens his eyes to the same gray ceiling, the same buzzing light, the same cold air. And he realizes something painful. The new day looks exactly like the old one. 5:10 a.m., the first sound of the day. Marcus sits up slowly. His joints crack from the thin mattress. Every morning he feels older than he really is. He rubs his eyes, but the light is too bright to escape. Then he hears it. The wheels. A cart rolling down the hallway. Steel wheels on concrete. It's breakfast. Even the sound of food arriving feels mechanical. When the cart stops at his door, he doesn't hear a voice. No, good morning. No, here you go. Just the food slot opening, the tray sliding in, and the slot slamming shut. Inside the tray, 2 scoops of oatmeal, 1 slice of bread, a small milk carton. Marcus whispers to himself, another day. He eats in silence. 6 a.m., the realization that breaks most men. As he finishes breakfast, Marcus stands near the small window slit. Just a line of morning sky. No sunrise. No horizon. No life. But he looks anyway. Not because he expects something new, but because looking at the sky is the closest he gets to a view. He takes a deep breath and presses his hand against the wall. This is when the truth hits him hardest. People on the outside are waking up right now. Showering. Drinking coffee. Starting their cars. Talking to family. Marcus? He's standing in a concrete box, waiting for the day to repeat itself. And that's exactly what ADX is designed to do. Wear you down by giving you the same day, over and over, until you forget what change feels like. 7:15 a.m., standing count. Footsteps approach again. Guards stop at his door. They don't speak. They don't smile. They don't ask questions. They just check. Is he alive? Is he conscious? Is he standing? Once the count is done, the hallway goes silent again. Marcus sits back down. He knows the schedule. He knows the structure. He knows exactly what comes next. Not because he wants to, but because he's lived the same day hundreds of times. The loop that never ends. At this moment, the day officially resets. The silence, the pacing, the waiting, the shower cage, the lunch tray, the rec time that feels like freedom inside another cage. The long afternoon quiet, the mental fight, the night that never fully becomes night. Marcus exhales deeply. Another 24 hours in ADX just began. And the hardest part is knowing. Tomorrow will look the same. And the next day. And the next. Inside ADX Florence, a man doesn't just live in a cell. He lives in a loop. When the days start living inside you, by the time Marcus finishes the morning count, the day is fully awake. But inside ADX Florence, that doesn't mean anything changes. The fluorescent lights hum. The concrete feels cold. And the silence sits on your skin like weight. Marcus leans back against the wall and closes his eyes. Not because he's tired, but because inside ADX, closing your eyes is the only way to pretend the world is bigger than this 6x9-foot box. The shift from a day in prison to a life in a box. In most prisons, inmates can talk, walk around, see faces, hear conversations, feel movement around them. ADX isn't like that. Here, the isolation is designed. You don't hear life. You don't see life. You don't feel life. And slowly, the mind starts to adjust to the cage the same way the body adjusts to cold water. Without even realizing it. Marcus knows it. He feels it every morning. This place doesn't just lock you in. It starts to live inside you. 8:30 a.m. The internal fight. Marcus stands up and starts walking laps. For steps to the back wall. For steps to the front. Repeat. He's not doing it to exercise. He's doing it to keep his thoughts from spiraling. Some inmates break loud, shouting, banging, screaming into the night. Others break quiet, sinking deeper into themselves, losing grip on days, memories, and time. Marcus refuses to become either. So he walks, and walks, and walks. Sometimes he whispers to himself just to hear a voice, even if it's his own. 9 a.m. The sounds that shape a man. Every noise in this prison carries meaning. A distant slam? That's a door locking 3 units away. A short beep? Someone getting escorted. Heavy steps? A team moving an inmate who might be struggling. Light steps? Unit officers making rounds. Marcus listens closely. He has to. When your whole world is one room, your ears become your windows. Sometimes he hears muffled talking through vents. Not full words, just echoes. Sometimes he hears the faint sound of another inmate arguing with himself. Sometimes someone is laughing at nothing. These sounds don't scare Marcus. What scares him is when the building gets completely silent. Because silence means every man in the unit is alone with nothing but his thoughts. And that's when ADX feels most dangerous. 10 a.m. When time loses shape. Marcus sits on the floor. The concrete is hard, but he prefers it sometimes. When you've lived in a cell long enough, different parts of the room become stations. The bed is for thinking. The corner is for grounding yourself. The floor is for resetting your mind. The window slit is for remembering the world. He sits cross-legged and breathes slow. His mind wanders. Who else is awake? What are people outside doing right now? Is someone sitting in traffic on their way to work? Is a kid eating breakfast before school? Is a family arguing in the kitchen? He imagines these scenes because imagining is the closest thing to living that he has. 10:45 a.m. A realization most will never understand. Marcus stands and presses his palm flat against the door. The metal is solid, cold, unmoving, the same way it is every single day. And it hits him hard every single time. He is awake. He is alive. He is breathing. But he is not living. Not in the way the world understands living. Not in the way he once did. Inside ADX, life becomes a routine of breathing in a room. A routine of waiting, listening, pacing, thinking, enduring. And as Marcus pulls his hand back, he knows something that few people will ever truly feel. You don't count days inside ADX. The days count you. The moment the mind starts pushing back. By 11:30 a.m., the stillness in Marcus' cell becomes thick. The kind of quiet that feels like it's pressing against the walls. He sits on the edge of his bed and rubs his hands together. The room isn't cold, but it feels cold. That's what 23 hours of isolation does. It makes empty space feel heavy. And in ADX, the mind knows when the day is slowing down. Because that's when the real fight begins. The mental pressure of a place built to break you. Federal prisons are strict. Maximum security prisons are intense. But ADX Florence is different. It's built around one idea. Control the environment so tightly that nothing moves except time. No conversations. No eye contact. No interactions. No noise unless it's forced. This kind of structure doesn't just keep inmates locked in. It teaches the mind to shrink. But Marcus refuses to let his mind collapse. He sits against the wall, closes his eyes, and forces himself to imagine something good. A street. A warm day. A simple walk with no handcuffs. He focuses on the picture. Tries to make it real. Tries to see color in a world filled only with gray. He breathes in slowly. And for a moment, just a short one, he feels like a human again. 12 p.m. Lunch arrives without a word. The food slot snaps open. The metal tray bangs against the steel as it slides in. There's no warning. No voice. No instructions. Just the tray. Today's lunches. Mixed vegetables. A piece of cornbread. Water. Marcus picks up the spoon. Even eating becomes a routine so familiar that it's almost automatic. One scoop. Chew. Swallow. Repeat. He eats at a slow pace. Because in a place where nothing changes, a simple meal becomes its own form of time management. He finishes and places the tray near the door. A tiny act of order in a world with no choices. 12:40 p.m., the quietest part of the day. After lunch, the prison settles again. The guards rotate. The hallways calm down. The building hums with a low mechanical sound. This is the hour when isolation hits hardest. The body starts feeling still. The brain starts drifting. The silence feels deeper than the morning silence. Marcus tries not to slip into the thoughts that hurt. The what-ifs. The I should've. The memories of freedom. And the faces he'll never see again. But inside ADX, memories don't come quietly. They bang on your thoughts until you're forced to feel them. The danger of thinking too long. Marcus stands and starts pacing again. Slow circles this time. His thoughts begin drifting toward things he tries to avoid. Past mistakes. The moment everything changed. The choices that led him into the cage. He forces himself to stop thinking. To breathe. To touch the wall and focus on the cold surface. In ADX, men don't break because of hunger. Or fights. Or danger. They break because their own thoughts get louder than the world. 1:30 p.m., waiting for the one break left in the day. Rec time is coming soon. The 1 hour that makes the rest of the day feel possible. Marcus listens closely. Every footstep. Every echo. Every small click in the hallway. He knows they're getting closer. He knows it will happen soon. But inside ADX, waiting feels like its own form of pressure. A pressure that sits on your chest. And stretches time longer than it's supposed to be. Any minute now. The door will open. The cuffs will go on. And he will step into the only fresh air he gets. Inside ADX Florence, waiting, is half the day. And Marcus is waiting. The hour that feels like a lifetime. At 2:02 p.m., it happens. The sound Marcus has been listening for all day finally reaches his door. The lock's disengaging. He instantly stands. Not because he's excited, but because rec time is the only hour where his body feels like it belongs to him. The door slides open just enough for the guards to appear. 2 officers. Eyes alert. Movements sharp. No wasted words. One says the same thing he hears every afternoon. Recreation. The routine of restraint. Marcus turns around, placing his hands through the small opening in the door. The cuffs tighten around his wrists. Cold metal. Always cold. Then his ankles are secured. Every movement monitored. Every step controlled. This ritual never changes. In ADX Florence, freedom is escorted. The walk through the empty world. The hallway outside his cell feels wider than it really is. After being boxed in all day, even 10 feet feels huge. Marcus walks forward as the officers lead. Every step he takes echoes off the concrete walls. They pass door after door. each one holding another man inside another silent world. He never sees the inmates. They never see him. The design is intentional. No contact. No communication. No connection. Just controlled movement through a place built to remove every trace of humanity. The outdoor cage that counts as sunlight. Finally, after passing through several steel doors, the officers bring him to the small rec area. It's called the yard, but it looks nothing like one. It's a concrete box surrounded by high walls, with a steel mesh ceiling that lets in a little sunlight. No grass. No open sky. No open space. Just a cage. But in ADX, this cage is the closest thing to outside a man gets. The guards remove his cuffs through a slot. The door shuts. The lock echoes. Marcus steps forward. For the next 1 hour, he is as free as ADX allows. What a man does with only 1 hour of sky. Marcus looks up. The sun touches his face. It's not warm. It's not bright. But it's real. And inside ADX, real sunlight feels like hope. He starts walking slow circles. 10 steps forward. 10 steps back. Sometimes he jogs. Sometimes he stretches his arms just to feel blood moving. Other times he stands still and breathes, trying to inhale enough air to last him through another day of sitting alone. He remembers streets. He remembers wind. He remembers being able to walk without chains on his wrists. For a brief moment, he lets himself imagine that the sky above him is open and endless. The clock always wins, but the hour moves fast. Too fast. At 3:05 p.m., the guards return. There's no warning. No countdown. No extra minute. Turn around. The cuffs go back on. The door opens. The sunlight disappears. And Marcus steps back into the hallway, back toward the place he already spent 23 hours in. As he walks, he can still feel the fresh air on his skin. But he knows it will fade. It always fades. Inside ADX, the world outside is a feeling that lasts only an hour. The cage lasts the rest of the day. 24 hours that never end. Marcus is back in his cell now. The door closes. The locks slam shut. And the world outside becomes a memory again. The hour of sunlight fades from his skin. The air grows still. The concrete grows cold. And the silence returns like it never left. This is ADX Florence. A place where a man doesn't count days. A place where days count him. Where freedom is something you breathe for only 60 minutes. Where night never gets dark. And morning never brings change. A place built to control your body, but ends up challenging your mind. Inside these walls, life doesn't move. It circles. Repeats. Loops endlessly. Breakfast at dawn. Silence by midday. A single hour of sky. A long night that doesn't feel like night. And the same sunrise that looks exactly like yesterday's. To the outside world, 24 hours is just a day. Inside ADX Florence, 24 hours is a test, the patience, of strength, of sanity. And tomorrow, Marcus will wake up to the same light, the same steel door, the same food slot, the same routine. Because inside America's most secure prison, you don't just live in a cell. You live inside a cage of time.